I'll end really quickly on my part. And Mr. Chairman, thank you, sir. And I'll just say just this. In West Virginia, we value families like you can't imagine. And absolutely the foundational part of our families and our culture is our families. There's no question whatsoever. Now, let me just go back just a second and just say just this. You know, there was a few years ago that in West Virginia, I always call the voters Toby and Edith. And I would say just this, that, and this reflects on loneliness, but let's say Aunt Edith wants to have a picnic and she wants all of her grandkids to be there. And we were in a situation in West Virginia a few years back where, to be perfectly honest, many folks left that had those kids because they had to go someplace else to find a job. And absolutely, if you haven't seen the ramifications of loneliness, then you've really missed something, because it's sadness beyond belief. I really think just this, that we're plenty smart enough to solve this riddle. We're not doing enough. We've got to go back to what I said just a little while ago. We've got to get kids involved. We've got to get dogs involved. We've got to, I mean, for God's sakes, a living, you just think. Now, many of you probably don't know this, but if you know who Baby Dog is, honest to goodness, I can't tell you the number of places that I've gone to senior centers that absolutely, they don't care about me being there. They wanted Baby Dog to be there. You know, absolutely, I tell you, we can solve this riddle. And all of us, and if we don't, shame on us, all of us should be willing to take a blood oath that we're going to fix it. We're going to fix this. I mean, there is so much that can be done. And absolutely, again, if you have not seen and felt and touched loneliness, then absolutely you have been very lucky, because it is sadness like you can't imagine. So all I would say is just this. My question would be, what can we do? What can we do beyond? I mean, I know your answer is going to be, you know, it's almost like you go in a restaurant and say, you know, the waitress comes over and says, "Sir, how do you like your eggs? Do you like your eggs scrambled or fried?" And you say, "Yes." Absolutely, in this situation, we've got to say yes to all these ways to make things better. These people have given so much, it's off the chart. And so I want to listen real quickly if anybody on the panel wants to take the question, but my question would be just centered around, you know, in West Virginia, those values are unbelievable. Tell me anything and everything you can possibly tell me in a matter of just a few seconds that'll make it better. Please, any of you.
Thank you, Senator, for that question and those sentiments. And love the idea of pets, and just, you know, our almost all of our communities allow pets, and in most cases, either the residents have pets or the communities themselves have pets, which then become pets for everybody else in the building.
No, Baby Dog's not a pet.
Well, exactly. Fantastic point.
I mean, Baby Dog's one of us.
But they bring any animal, right? Brings life to the
100%.
entire community, and it's things like that, and it's things like music therapy, and it's the intergenerational, you know, connections that we've been talking about. And I think there is not a single solution to this crisis. I think there's elements of a solution among all of us here, all serving sort of different parts of the community. And learning from each other and what works and what doesn't, I think is a tremendous opportunity. And even before we started, we were sort of sharing ways to potentially partner with each other on some things. And Senator Gillibrand, back to your question about falls, you know, I think that's a terrible concern for seniors, and I see it in my loved ones. And I can only tell you, in our communities, you know, one of the first things that happens when somebody comes in, they go through an assessment. And oftentimes we identify that it's been lack of nutrition, lack of exercise, needs some physical therapy. Oftentimes it's medication, on too many medications, and having to adjust that regimen. But it goes beyond that. It's also the setting in which they live, and does it have the right flooring? Does it have the appropriate lighting? And so there's a whole host of those, regardless of whether they live in our buildings or others. But I think technology is also a crucial role in that as well, in terms of being able to identify when somebody's fallen if they live on their own. I can tell you personally, my mom was an hour away from me, and she fell, and she sat there until I could come and pick her up because she was too proud to call for help. And so it's a terrible a need that we need to fill, and we're part of the solution, and I think all of us here are part of the solution. And I commend you for this hearing and bringing us all together to work on it together. So thank you.
Senator, I would respond and say, I think you've heard today, you've heard a lot of tactical activities, things that we can do to provide, but I think what you've said that's touched me is this is about cultural recommitment to a belief in our responsibility to seniors. At the Y, we have 4 core values. They're caring, honesty, respect, and responsibility. And I think this committee has a huge opportunity to continue to elevate the responsibility that every American has to every American person who happens to be over the age of 55 or 60, I won't say older adult or seniors. But I think it's an opportunity, again, for us to raise awareness and recommit to the responsibility that we have for those who have lived wonderful lives and still are living wonderful lives that we can all learn from.
Well, thank you so much for all you do every day. Let's just do more.